You know what that sound means? It's another episode of Game for a Movie where we ask, are you game for a movie? My name is Mike. I'll be your host. I am joined by
Jim, how are you?
I was going to say, should I just have introduced you? It seemed like a second. Wait, what am I?
Who am I again? I forget. I don't know.
uh, we've got a very special episode today. It is releasing on Friday the 13th. So, of course, in October. And of course, we're doing 5 bad horror movies this month. So, you actually chose the bad movie, which we'll get into in a second. But I knew I had to have you on the show because you chose which Friday the 13th we were talking about.
Right. I had to think of what the worst one is
Mm-hmm.
since we're doing bad movies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Yeah, it has some fun, of course, with all the Friday 13th. But first, let's talk about what we're drinking. Jim, what is that monstrosity you've got over there?
This monstrosity is in honor of Jason Takes Manhattan. And as everyone knows, in 1989, when this movie came out, toxic waste was a big thing in Manhattan. So
Yes.
this drink is toxic waste. What it is, this is a pineapple White Claw with a shot of absolute vanilla, topped off with some delicious Mountain Dew blast.
Is that Hank Hill?
Hank Hill, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, all right.
Blast, yes.
In honor of Jason Takes Manhattan, I've made myself a Manhattan. Because I just thought, why not? Gives me a reason to
Very
do
good.
so. And of course, I've got a beer too, because I actually did pop the beer just in case. But it's what is this beer company again? I can't remember. Full Steam, and it is Rocket Science IPA. So
Very nice.
yes,
Very
and it's in
nice.
a Bucky's koozie because of course.
Of course.
Okay,
You can't go
so
wrong with Bucky's.
can't go wrong with Bucky's. We've got Jason Takes Manhattan, which all right, so you said we got to do the worst one. I don't think Jason Takes Manhattan is the worst one.
What do you think is the worst one?
I think it's Jason Goes to Hell.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. I think there's things that are about this movie, this particular one. Um, the the original two scripts that were fighting over each other.
Yeah.
The fact that the studio up to this point gave them the most money they've ever had for a Friday the 13th movie,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that it made the least of any of the Friday the 13th movies at the
Yes.
box office. It's kind of, yeah, it does have fantastic moments here
Yes,
and there.
of course.
Yeah, but yeah, it could be it's close. It's
Yeah.
definitely close. Most
Well,
most people think that Jason X is the worst, but I
Jason
I
X. Okay.
disagree with that.
I think Jason X is one of the best kills by far with the liquid nitrogen. That's actually one of my favorites
Yeah.
of the series. Um, yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely goofy, but I don't think Jason X is that bad. A lot of people were saying Jason 5 or Friday the 13th 5, which was the new beginning.
Yeah.
Because Jason
Um.
wasn't actually the bad guy.
Right. Right. It's not as off course
Yeah.
as Halloween 3.
Okay. Yep.
But I do love Halloween 3. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not as off course as that. But yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah. That's
These are these
it's
are not epic um film. I don't know what the word I'm looking for here. These aren't masterpieces, but
no.
they're fun.
I honestly, I'm even saying these. I'm just like, even Jason Goes to Hell, which I think is the worst. I still would watch it because it does have its fun moments.
It does. And then Jason Goes to Hell has that little ending
Hmm.
with a nod to Freddy Krueger. So
Yes. Right. Yeah. And then of course Freddy versus Jason happens, and
right.
so let's talk about Jason Takes Manhattan. Um, movie rooted in the 80s.
Oh yes.
Everything about it screams 80s to me, like right off the bat.
Absolutely, absolutely. It came out in July of 1989,
Okay.
which it's a culmination of everything 80s and everything New York City, as I described it to my wife yesterday, New York City pre-Giuliani, when
Yes.
when New York City was a fun, terrifying, crime-ridden heckhole.
Everything, like there's a million gangbangers on the street, there's toxic waste, graffiti everywhere, all of that good
Yep,
stuff.
punks punks with boom boxes roaming the
Yes.
streets.
But of course, I mean, like, because this is Jason Takes Manhattan, the first hour has to be on a boat to Manhattan.
Right. I think the first two-thirds of the movie aren't even in Manhattan, and according to what I've researched about, and yes, I did
Mhm.
research a little bit about this movie.
No,
There
I
were kind of
you got me beat on
there
this
were
one. Like I'm looking it
there
up
were
going, I did no research.
there were two dueling scripts for this movie
Mhm.
apparently. One of them before they even had the idea to go to Manhattan, one of them was supposed to take place on a cruise ship completely from beginning to end. And then the other was an epic in Manhattan, which was supposed to start, end, and have the entire movie in Manhattan. There were supposed to be scenes all throughout New York involving Broadway plays,
Ooh,
involving taxi rides, involving Jason climbing to the top of the Statue of
Statue of
Liberty and diving off into the water. There were all sorts of things that were supposed to be happening. The
Now it all
boxing
makes sense.
scene,
Yes, the
yeah,
boxing.
the boxing scene in Manhattan on the top of the building was supposed to actually take place in Madison Square Garden during an actual boxing match. But the studio killed it all because they had no money to do that in Manhattan. So that's how this came
What?
about.
We got robbed of an absolute gem of a film.
I think we did. I think you're right.
Well, and especially like they kept referencing climbing to the top of the Statue of Liberty, and now it all makes
Yes.
sense. Where I'm going, oh, duh. Yeah.
Yes, they talked about it. Yeah, they talked about how many floors it is to the top, how many
Mhm.
steps to the top of the of Statue of Liberty. Yeah, it's prominent in there, and yeah, they had some ideas that they never came to fruition.
Right. Yeah. So we got a mix of those scripts where we've got an hour on a boat and 40 minutes in Manhattan. Um, I don't,
Right?
I don't hate that it's on the boat for the first part. I don't.
No, no, it works.
Yeah.
It works. Although now you're talking about a bunch of kids, high school kids, you're presuming are from New Jersey,
Yes.
getting on this boat, a
Yes.
Panamanian freighter that is that has been, I don't know, dolled up to look like some sort of cruise ship that is high school class would take
Right.
to Manhattan.
Yes.
Um,
Including steam room, dance floor.
right, right, yes, and that's another thing. The dance floor, that whole
Mhm.
dance floor set was another thing that was supposed to be in a disco in Manhattan,
Okay.
where somebody
Yeah, that
moved it.
makes sense.
So, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, that ship is crazy. Not only do we get a ship, we get an admiral that's running
Yes.
the ship. Where did this guy
Admiral
come from?
and it's Admiral Robertson. I couldn't remember his name, but it also
Yes,
is Admiral Robertson and his son Sean.
and his son Sean, who was supposed to take over the ship,
Yes.
but forgot to toot the horn before they left, so
He got
he got taken
angry.
off.
I just yeah, I don't get why he was so angry. Like I guess he just needed to go find Rennie to establish, hey, these are our two main characters. Good luck.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then
But
of course,
he was the admiral was decked out in he had his full admiral uniform
he had
with
like his
a chest
medals.
full of medals
Yep.
to take this Panamanian freighter from the coast of New Jersey, we assume,
We assume.
even though it was filmed in Vancouver,
Yes.
to New York City.
Oh my
Because that's
gosh.
the easiest way to get from New Jersey to Manhattan,
Yes.
obviously.
A cruise. Yeah. And a
Yeah.
Panamanian freighter. I love how you keep referring to it as Panamanian freighter because it's I completely true, but it just keeps making me laugh every time we say it.
Yeah, yeah, and it came with the deckhand, who
Yes,
I don't even know if he had a name,
deckhand.
but
That is
like
what he is on
Crazy Ralph,
IMDb.
yeah, deckhand, like Crazy Ralph in the first Friday the 13th,
Mm-hmm.
riding around on his little bicycle saying you're all doomed. This
Yep.
guy was walking around with his mop on the ship saying you're all doomed. So
Yep.
we had a return of Crazy Ralph.
I also find it funny that he said he saw Jason climb on the boat, and I'm like, so you just let it happen? Didn't do anything about it, didn't alert anybody, just you saw him climbing on it, and you're just like,
We just
you're
watched
all
it.
doomed.
Yes. Yeah, of course. But nobody believes him because he's the crazy deckhand.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Um, we also have, just to establish some of the main characters as well, is Uncle Charles, who is the uncle of Rennie.
Yes.
I think is the school principal. I don't know if they ever established that. He definitely works for the school, but he's just like the hard ass.
Yeah. Right. Right. And he was Peter Richmond, I think his name was.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the bad guy, the jerky teacher in every half-assed sitcom and movie of the 80s. He was the jerk that was always coming down hard on the kids.
Yeah,
Um,
which he
at
still
some
is.
point, yes, at some point he does say, "Young lady, I'm your teacher." He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily say he's the principal, but I mean, why would he randomly be on this boat with these kids?
Right. And I don't get
I
why
mean,
he's
obviously they need a chaperone, but
yeah. Well, and that's my thing is like I get chaperoning, but he definitely never shows any like care for the kids. And it wasn't like Rennie was supposed to be on the boat in the first place. Like I thought, oh, maybe if Rennie was supposed to be on the boat, he'd be there. Nope, he's just there. He's just chaperoning. He's there to make sure
right.
that the one girl gets her science project in her biology assignments.
Her biology assignment, and of course, when's the best time to collect a biology assignment is on a Panamanian freighter on your way to Manhattan, because
Two
I
days before
mean,
your graduation on Friday the 13th.
yes. Well, you didn't turn in your biology final, so you better have it when we get on the boat. I'll tell you that much.
Yep, exactly. We also have Colleen, who's like the teacher that cares for Rennie and convinces her to go on this boat. And the reason we learn is Rennie
Yes.
is afraid of swimming. She doesn't like water. Um, these are just the main characters I want to get into because there's plenty of cannon fodder that well, we should also talk about, sorry, let Julius, because Julius is part of our favorite scene, who's the
Yes.
stereotypical leader of the jocks. He is a boxer.
Yep.
These are the important details that you need. Everybody else is kind of just
I'm
there to die.
right. Right. And I'm not sure exactly how old Julius was when they filmed this movie, but he looked to be about 35.
I
And
think you're
and one hell
young.
of a boxer. So
Yeah, right. I think you're young on that one. He
yeah, it could
was.
be.
I'm trying to look up personal details to see like how old he is, and it doesn't have it on his IMDb page. So we don't know how old he is. We just know he's known for Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, Eastwick in 2009, and South Central in 1992. So I don't.
There's
This
there aren't a lot of actors in this movie that went on to other things.
no, there is not. The only one that like went on. The only one that really went on to things that I actually knew was Kelly Hugh. She's in one of my favorite bad movies of all time called The Tournament. Um,
Okay.
Tournament's like she's also in The Scorpion King, but that just makes me laugh. Uh, the tournament, not to go down the rabbit hole here, but the tournament is basically like these people hire these assassins to compete in a tournament, killing each other. It's 30 assassins, 24 hours. If you've not seen it, I got it for $2.99 from a closing Blockbuster, and it is so worth it because I watch it at least once a year.
I was gonna say it doesn't sound terrible, but sure, yeah,
It's
be
got a
bad.
terrible rating, so I say it's a bad movie, but honestly, it's one of my favorites. I actually really enjoy it. It also has
Cool.
Ving Rhames, and who doesn't love good Ving Rhames?
Exactly. Ving Rhames is fantastic.
Oh, I love Ving Rhames. But enough about that. Yeah, so the rest of these characters are here as cannon fodder pretty much. And we've got some creative deaths. Um, I'm leaving out the main one that we've already kind of hinted at because I know that's your favorite.
Yes.
What would you say is your favorite kill in this? Whether
So
whether it be ridiculous or real, what do you think is your favorite?
my favorite is definitely Julius.
Yes.
Um, so we establish in the beginning of the movie that Julius is one hell of a boxer,
Mm-hmm.
and so as things progress and the ones that make it to Manhattan alive
Mm-hmm.
uh, get chased at various sections. Julius ends up on a roof with Jason and decides he's going to box his way out of it. Um, now, during the scene, uh, Julius was actually an amateur boxer in
Oh.
real life, and he was uh, Kane Hodder had so much um, padding on him, and of course he had the hockey
Mm-hmm.
mask on
Yeah.
that Julius was actually punching him. He
Wow.
was actually hitting him and punching him, and he punches him for good 2.5, 3 minutes till he's exhausted and his knuckles are bloody and he's
Mm-hmm.
had enough and he's exhausted and Jason grabs him by the collar and with one punch knocks his head off. It flies off the roof, rolls down the side of the roof, goes right into a dumpster, and automatically the dumpster lid slams shut on his head. Kind of like you almost expect the womp 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 music to after the head goes in the dumpster.
True though.
It's actually one of my favorite kills of all the Friday the 13th because
Yes.
it was just ridiculous.
I think I completely forgot about it because it's been a long time since I've seen Manhattan, and
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. And then you texted me because I sent you a picture of when I had started the movie, and you were at that scene, and you go, "Oh, we're almost at the boxing scene." I'm like, I completely forgot that was in this movie, and I was just so excited to get there. um,
It's great, and I do remember back in it would have been '89 back
mhm,
seeing this in the movies
yeah,
and kind of a cheer coming up from the audience when that happened. So yeah, it was definitely a memorable scene.
this movie, especially like after you get off the boat, does kind of become you're rooting for Jason almost. And it's not on purpose. Like, I don't think any of the characters make it so bad that you're like cheering against them, but you just kind of like everything he does in New York and just kind of, okay, he saved Rennie from rapists. Um, he
Right?
had one of the best kills with the boxing scene.
Yep.
Basically, didn't
He
kill.
does walk around he kind of walks around acting like he's got a little comic relief going when he first crawls out of the water
Yep.
and sees a billboard for the East Coast Hockey League
Yes.
of the guy in a hockey mask, and he looks at it, and he kind of turns his head like a puppy, kind of
Yeah.
curious as to what he's seeing there. He does it again when he first sees Times Square, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's got a little comic relief going,
He
a little
smashes
softer side to
he
Jason.
smashes the boombox. He throws the big short order cook. Like everything he does, I'm just kind of like, all right, Jason, you go. Like he never really messes with anybody besides the people that
Yes,
were on the boat, but he breaks the boombox is the best. Um,
yeah, that's a good one, and yeah, he breaks the boombox and then takes off his mask to scare the hell out of the kids with the mask. So yeah.
yes, yeah. um, the death I would say for me that was besides the boxing scene because the boxing scene is definitely my favorite. It's just the ridiculous nature of it that on this boat there was the sauna and Jason grabs one of the hot rocks and just shoves it through this kid. That was the one that
Right
like,
from the gut.
oh, it got me. That one broke me. Um, I also thought he was gonna kill Eva by slamming her through the disco ball on the dance floor. I was a little sad that she just got choked out.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot. That scene seemed like a lot for her just ending up getting choked out when, like you said,
Right.
she could have been hung by the disco ball and been
Mm-hmm.
twirling around and
Yeah,
around and
right.
around, or
Exactly. Like
something along those.
that's what I was expecting from this movie with this level of camp and cheese and everything like that. I was kind of hoping for that, but
Yes.
um, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I kept a
You
tally.
mentioned
Oh yeah,
the big guy from the diner,
yes,
um, who Jason picks up and tosses into the mirror.
yes.
Um, that guy, Ken Kersinger was his
Ken
name,
Herzing. Okay.
and he actually played Jason in Freddy versus Jason 2 movies later.
Oh really?
Yeah.
See, and like I liked how he got up to, and he was definitely like you see him, he's big dude, he's intimidating and everything like that. And Jason's actually this is one of the few times Jason's actually smaller than someone, and he still throws him across the room.
Right, right, showing Jason's strength. And can we go back to one thing
Hmm?
that we talked about before? When they get to Manhattan, they start rooting. You start rooting for Jason,
Yeah.
because he saves Rennie from the would-be rapist.
Yes.
Um, I kept kind of thinking to myself, Rennie spends the last 2/3 of this movie high on heroin because they did inject her up before they were about to assault her, and now
Yeah.
she's walking around on heroin. I wonder if she went on to think that maybe it was all just a dream.
Maybe she was riding that white pony, like she was going. I
She
did think
was
about that.
definitely going. Oh,
Yeah, I did think about that because they did get the needle in her and they did push the plunger. Like it was empty.
it was, it
So
was
yeah, and then the syringe got jabbed into the first gangbanger.
right. Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
I did keep track of how many people died in this. 17 people died in this movie. So I was
Adequate.
keeping yeah, I was keeping track of that mostly because I was thinking of the first one and I don't think it was anywhere near that number. And so this one definitely dialed up a little bit. Obviously, it's number 7 in the series. 7, 8, 7,
8.
8. I can't count.
I do
Maybe
I
the
do make that mistake a lot myself. I don't know why. I For years I thought it was 7, but
yeah.
yeah, it's 8.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking like from the humble beginnings of probably what 6, 7 people died. Now we're up to 17.
Yes,
Not bad. Not
yes.
bad.
It's it was it it was yeah, there was quite a few.
Mhm.
There's got to be a list somewhere of how many kills, what has the most kills.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Although, okay, so according to this, I only have the first 5 here, but Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday is 25,
Okay.
Freddy vs. Jason at 22, Jason X
Okay.
at 21,
Wow.
A New Beginning at 19, Part 6 at 18. So this might be around the mid level of number of kills in each movie.
Okay.
So it looks like it's around mid.
Yeah. Okay. Did you find that screen rant? Is that what it was?
Yes, Screen
Okay.
Rant.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just looking it up myself. um, I do also want to talk about, so we talked a lot about toxic waste just everywhere, including that
Yes.
just throws Charles into a vat of toxic waste that's just on the street. But these,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah. Foreshadowing. There was foreshadowing in the beginning of the movie. There was foreshadowing
there was
when
foreshadowing.
uh, somebody randomly gets mugged. They take his wallet and take the money out, and then toss his empty wallet into this vat of toxic waste. And then out pops the most adorable little rat you've ever seen in your life.
No, I missed that part. I actually wasn't. I guess I didn't see that part. Um, but we were talking about how this is a big deal, this toxic waste in New York. And the thing that gets me is the sewers. So
Yes.
our heroes end up in the sewers being chased by Jason. And it's 10 minutes to midnight, and there just happens to be like a friendly neighborhood guy. He's got his wrench, he's working on a pipes or something like that. And he's like, I'll show you how to get out of here. This is perfect timing because at midnight, the sewers flood with toxic waste.
Yes. Yes. Ed Norton is now in the sewers saving them from this toxic waste every night at midnight.
Every
Every
night.
night, the sewer fills with toxic waste.
And that was my thing is
I don't
this,
remember when I watched this movie in 1989. I do not remember being surprised by the fact that this was happening.
right? Yeah. Well, and that was the thing too, is I'm sitting there going, this guy knows that it floods with toxic waste. He's still there 10 minutes before midnight. Like, what the hell's wrong with you, dude?
He's cutting it close. Although the man probably knows his job, so maybe he does it every night. But yeah, that's a little close.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in a time without
And
cell
it's not
phones where you
like the
can't set an
toxic
alarm.
waste. Yeah, it's not like the toxic waste seeps in, or I mean, it comes in like it's the Poseidon Adventure. This massive quantities of toxic waste running through the storm system or the
The
the sewer system.
the blood comes out of the shining elevator. Like it's
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
uh obviously it gets rid of Jason for at least a little bit. But yeah, this
At
movie,
least for this movie, yeah. And and Jason's unmasked in this movie once again,
yes.
um, by the I don't recall if it's by the toxic waste flood, but whatever it is, his mask is off and his face is melting off.
Yes. I was
And
actually thinking it like melted onto his face almost. But yes, it was melting definitely.
that could be,
Yeah,
it could be.
I couldn't exactly tell, but yes, definitely. He was unmasked at least twice where you actually saw his face.
Yes. Yeah, it was not pretty. And another interesting fact, I don't know if I got this from IMDb
Mhm.
or somewhere else, but as Jason is quote unquote dying in the toxic waste, he throws up all this toxic waste that he's been ingesting in this one
Oh.
scene. And apparently, Kane Hodder actually drank an entire gallon of water right before the scene and actually puked water out. So that's actually him throwing up water. It was not an effect. I don't know
Yeah,
if
that was just
I don't know why he did that. He felt the
yeah.
need to method act this toxic waste being puked up, but yeah, apparently that's real.
Hey, good for Kane Hodder. He knew his character. He knew what he needed to do.
He knew exactly what that's why he's the most famous Jason. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Uh um we didn't even talk about why Charles, I think, deserved to die in the first place. He was the one that threw Rennie in the water, and she relived that trauma of why she was scared of the water and everything because Jason was pulling her down. Because
Right. Right.
yeah, that's the whole connection to Camp Crystal Lake. They went to Camp Crystal Lake, and basically he was, if you don't learn how to swim, Jason's gonna bring you down, and throws her into the water. uh Asshole father of the year.
Terribly mean.
Yeah, like he
Yeah.
wasn't her real
Yeah.
father, but
I think yeah, right, right. He was her guardian, Uncle Charles, yes, because her
yes, Uncle
parents
Charles.
what happened to her parents? They died in a car
it,
crash or
I
something. But
think
yeah,
so, yeah.
yes, he was the guardian.
Yeah.
Um yeah. We kind of yes, and I guess that may have been the heroin induced memory that she got from staring into the I can only assume was a puddle of toxic waste on fire,
Yes.
uh, which kind of morphed into Crystal Lake, and then that's when she had her memory of being
Just kind
thrown
of
into
yeah.
Crystal Lake by Uncle Charles. Yes.
Yeah, it just kind of flooded back on her. Yes, I did mean that pun. Uh, but yes, I do think you're right about that. Has to be toxic waste because it was just everywhere. So it had to be toxic waste on fire. Which that whole
Right.
scene, how that came to be in the first place, and how they were in like the back of the police car, and the policeman gets killed by Jason, and then she drives, and somehow Jason's in front of them, drives through Jason, and then hits a fence just cause. Like you had a car, you
Yes, if you know how to drive, there's a brake. You could have used it, but that doesn't help the plot.
no,
No.
no, it doesn't help the plot. We need to learn why Uncle Charles is the way he is, and why Rennie's scared of water.
And there's a very, very short uh, few lines by the cop.
Mm-hmm.
And when Corinne and I were watching this movie, um, she noticed something that I didn't, and this would be this police officer's terrible Irish accent. Now, I guess if you're in New York, you're going to have an Irish cop. And then I did look on IMDb, and he's listed as Irish cop.
Irish
So
cop represent.
you got you, you got your Clancy Wiggum in here as the Irish cop. Um, yeah, I didn't notice that until Corinne pointed it out to me. So yeah,
It's funny you just said Clancy Wiggum, and the first thought that always pops into my head with Chief Wiggum is the B Sharps episode where he gets kicked out of it, and he's
yeah,
like re-auditioning
yep.
as Dr. Doolittle. Dr. Doolittle's really Chief Wiggum. Oh, this bird's gotta fly. He runs to the window. It's
That's
so dumb, but
fantastic.
that's every single time I think of Chief Wiggum. So Irish cop, yes, the few lines before
Yeah,
he dies.
yeah,
Uh,
and I don't know why they made him. I mean, I guess we have to say it's New York City, and of course
mhm.
I know a lot of New York City police officers, and they are all Irish, so maybe they're not far off.
But they're usually good Irish accents, not this guy.
Right,
I want to
right.
look up his name because I want to see if he's actually Irish.
They're not hiding their Lucky Charms.
Roger Barnes is his name.
It
Yeah,
could be. It could be.
I mean yeah, maybe. He he's had a good career of playing cops pretty much. He's been in a lot of things as like cop number 3, uh
Yeah,
financial cop, coach. Okay, he was a coach at one point, but
coach. Okay, that
coach.
works.
Yeah, Agent Smith. Um,
Oh,
that movie's Millennium, or it's TV series. Sorry, TV series Millennium from the '90s. Yeah, uh, cop number 2. There we go. Another one. Officer number 2,
fantastic.
cop number 4. Yeah, he was also in 21 Jump Street. Just in case you were curious, the TV show, not the
Oh
movie.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So Irish cop.
Great.
He's got a great career playing a cop. Irish, I don't know about that.
Got to work on that accent, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm trying to think what else to talk about with this movie. That
I think we might need to go back a little bit back to
okay,
on the boat,
yeah,
because one of the things that number one, you have I don't recall her name, but the girl with the flying V guitar who
JJ.
couldn't wait. Yeah, she could not wait to film a music video in the bowels of this ship
Yes, with Wayne,
with
her
apparently an
nerd
entire
friend.
Wayne, her nerd friend. Um, and Wayne is not in love with her. Wayne's in love with the other girl, that
Tamara? Tamara? Is that Tamara? Tamara? I don't remember how you
Tamara,
pronounce it. Yeah, yeah,
the
the
girl who
biology girl.
biology girl. And let's talk about that for a second. Um, I can't imagine what her biology project was supposed to be. I'm sure it was something very complicated and
Yes.
and I'm sure it was not supposed to be body parts drawn all across her, so that she
Did
eventually decides to strip down to her underwear and try to romance Uncle Charles into giving her a good grade. I suppose
I
that was the point.
I did see,
Man, that was
however,
uncomfortable.
yeah, it was. It was very uncomfortable. When she did strip down though, so she had marked all of her body parts and everything like that for her biology project. Did you see anything wrong with it? I'm wondering if I'm the only one who caught
I,
anything.
I I don't think I looked that hard, but it didn't. I mean, nothing really looked right. But
Yeah.
I'll
Stomach
have to go back and
was
look again.
stomach was spelled Stomack. And originally I was like, no, no, they did not. No, because it's and
Oh my.
I rewinded the 10 seconds. Nope, it's there. Stomach.
That see now you're just gonna get a failing grade now. It doesn't matter what happens after that. Even if Uncle Charles was enjoying what he was going through, you can't spell stomach. I mean, you got to fail no matter what, right?
I see two D's and an F. uh yeah,
Goodness.
yeah, Tamara making the moves on Uncle Charles. And of course getting
Yeah.
Wayne, the hopelessly in
When
love
yes,
videographer.
to come in and film
Yep.
what's going on, and yeah, maybe that yeah that was her
Yeah.
master plan
Yep.
was to film her and Uncle Charles, um, as Tim Curry once said, in flagrante delicto,
Yes.
um, doing whatever they weren't supposed to be doing, and I suppose that was her biology final.
that
So
was that was
hopefully
yeah.
she got a good grade out of that.
Uncle Charles never made it, neither did she. Didn't
No,
matter.
no, that's true. Didn't matter
She got
after
stabbed
all
in the
that work.
stomach. I also love how Wayne comes in and is just like, after that whole scene, Uncle Charles leaves and he's just like, I have had the major hots for you.
Right.
That's a
And she's
phrase.
like, oh, ooh, well, I like you as a friend, and thanks for helping me set up Uncle Charles, and I'll just take that tape and slam the door in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Not nice.
And then of course the first thought he has is, what about this other girl I left on the hook, JJ? Let's go find her.
Let's go back down to the balls of the ship and see if the girl with the flying V might be my friend. But
Yep,
no.
exactly. Yeah, that was a very pretty guitar that she never played correctly as well. But you gotta
Yeah,
fake it until
yeah,
you make it.
absolutely. Um, yeah, but she had whatever she had with that guitar, her whole portable speaker system.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
didn't need any power, didn't need to be plugged in anywhere. Just turn it on and go
When
to
she
town. It was fantastic.
when she played the music on the side, I was like, okay, she's got it on like a tape recorder or something like that. Fine. But then she had like an amp out of nowhere and like she I, all of a sudden these chords are everywhere and I'm like, that took you no time. You literally just said, wow, this
Yeah,
is a great place for a music video.
just set it right up wherever, and
Yeah.
yeah, the new Ronco 77 automatic guitar
Don't you know it
amp,
Bluetooth
I
now?
guess. Exactly. Nobody could have imagined back in good old 1989 the Bluetooth. You know, speaking of 1989, something I read about this movie yesterday,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if I believe it or not, but it says that it was filmed entirely in April of 1989
Oh,
and then released in July of 1989, which seems quick.
that's very quick. I mean,
So
um, yeah, I don't know, because I part of me is like, yeah, that seems very quick, but part of me is also like all of New York was a soundstage, it felt like. So
yes,
for the most part anyway, at
all of
least
the well, all of the um, with the exception of the shots in the river with
Okay.
the Statue of Liberty,
Okay. Yep.
and
Probably Times Square.
Times Square.
Yeah.
Times Square was all real. Everything else was in Vancouver. So
Okay.
all
Yep.
the alley scenes, all the city
Right.
scenes, everything, and the when the ship left
Hmm.
New Jersey, you can see in the background the wonderful, beautiful mountains of Vancouver, and you're thinking to yourself, that looks exactly like New Jersey. Of course, they're leaving New Jersey right now.
After you watch the movie, Corinne goes and told me this and was just like, that's obviously Vancouver. Only you would know that. She was telling me you
That's
were
what that.
saying
See,
that.
that's what happens when you read too much about a movie before you watch the movie. You should
Got
just let it be
go in
and
blind.
keep your suspension of disbelief and just
Yeah.
just go with it.
Yeah.
Just go with the
That was my
Panamanian freighter turned into the most beautiful
most
cruise
beautiful
ship you've
cruise
ever
ship with the
seen.
sauna. And I can't get over the sauna. I
And
can't
can
do
we
it. I
talk?
can't.
Yeah, the sauna was nice. I
Yeah.
mean,
It was way too big.
it was
Like,
fantastic. And here's the other thing: how many people are in this graduating class? 10,
um,
9,
yeah,
8?
right.
If
It's a
is
small.
this the whole class trip? Because there weren't a lot of people on this boat.
No, there was not. Yeah, I'm with you on that because I mean, 7 people I think got out on the boat, and 2 of those were no more than that, more than that. But at most probably like 10 people got on the boat, and that was everybody except for our main 4, 5 with Julius. Yeah, I forgot. I keep forgetting Julius. I remember the core 4 because they introduced him and they're like, this is basically going to be who your 4 are. And then Julius, I thought
Right,
was going to get it on the boat, and then remembered the boxing scene and was like, oh yeah, no, he actually gets through.
right. Realistically, they could have rented a pontoon
Yeah.
and got a cooler and been fine.
Yep. But they need to travel in style to New York. They apparently live in New Jersey, but this is going to be like their first trip to New York ever.
I'm just thinking back to the days when I lived in the Northeast, how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of limo companies there are up there that had these big, giant, fancy buses that they could have taken from New Jersey to
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Well, now especially
But
you could. I mean, obviously this is 1989, so who knows? But you could have taken a Hummer limo, had a great time, or just a party bus. Just
exactly,
get a party bus.
just a party. You know what? They could have gotten a school bus and gone there. It was
Yeah, if
so
the
much
school
easier.
the school is spending this much money on a senior trip for every year.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes. Oh my
get a school
goodness.
bus. Man, our volleyball coach was our school bus driver. Like he this is how cheap we were. We were just like, okay, cool, you get a school bus that's driven by our volleyball coach that also coaches. And it's like just one person, that's it. You don't need to pay 2 people. But
That's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's what it is. Oh man.
Oh,
I also love the use of spear guns and spears. There's multiple of those.
yep.
Um, oh, there
Yeah,
was
the,
one
the
thing.
the
Oh,
Random
sorry.
Two in the beginning. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I was just thinking about the Random Two, the other boat
yeah,
in the beginning where the two first people that show up
yes.
are
That are
on a
having
random boat
sex
that.
in a horror movie.
Yes, terrible.
Yeah, how dare you? And he scares her with a Jason mask. Like this was a plan
Yeah,
all along that they were going to go over by there.
right,
And
right.
she's mad at him for all of like 20 seconds and then forgives him.
I want to know who's driving the boat to begin with because they're downstairs, they're making out, the
Yeah,
boat is
before he anchors
just
down.
moving
Yeah,
along,
yeah,
and he stops in the middle and says, "You know what? I better go upstairs and throw down the anchor because obviously they're going somewhere."
yeah. They're just floating
And
down the
of course,
river.
the anchor is the key to the entire
Yes.
waking up Jason with the electricity.
Yes, the underwater electric thing that just gets hit a couple times by an anchor and it's breaks and electrocutes the ocean.
Right.
And Jason, of course.
Of course. of
And
course. And he was Jason spent so much time in the water, obviously drowned in the water. He spent
mhm,
time in the water.
yep,
This is the most this is the most squishy Jason has ever been when he's come out of the water. He's very
yes,
squishy and slimy and gross, and you just kind of want him to dry off a little bit because
yeah,
you think like all these weapons and things would be slipping out of his hands,
right.
and he's just a little too mushy in this one for my taste.
A little too mushy. For those of you at home that hate this word, a little moist.
Little moist. He was moistacular.
Oh my god, I got a little Manhattan in the nose there.
I'm trying to think of all those moist puns from Letterkenny, and I can't think of
Oh
any of
my
them right now.
god.
But if I could think of them, I'd be
Oh,
rattling them
Letterkenny.
off.
Yes. It doesn't shock me that you watch Letterkenny, by the way.
Of course,
Not a
of
bad thing
course.
at all. It was just yeah, you hit me as that kind of person.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. What would you rate this sucker?
Okay. I would have to putting it up against all the other
Hmm.
Friday the 13th movies. Um, I'm not going to give it a terrible rating. I'm going to give it two and a half 55-gallon drums of toxic waste out of five.
You took my measure.
That's the second time that's happened.
I know. Toxic waste was just the easy
Drums of
one.
toxic waste. Yeah.
Well, so this is gonna come across as harsh, but really this is actually pretty good for a bad movie for me. 1.5 out of 5 sauna rocks.
Sauna rocks. There you go.
Yeah. I had a backup this time ready just in
That
case.
worked. That worked. So that's what happens when you let me go first.
Yeah, well, I guess always first, especially guests that chose the movie. Like I can't,
That's true.
especially compared to the other two that I've watched this month already. This is by far the highest.
Gotcha. What else did you watch?
The Silence on Netflix, starring
Okay.
Stanley Tucci and Kiernan Shipka.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
That got the old Mitchell Zero, which is 0.5 out of 5.
Okay.
We call it the Mitchell Zero because our buddy Mitchell, he can't give a movie a zero because you made a movie and that's like really hard to do. So
I
that's
I
the
I
closest to it.
definitely respect that. I understand that. It's very difficult to give something a zero. Yeah.
But I don't mind giving zeros, and that's why the other one, which the episode hasn't released yet, it's Urban Legends Bloody Mary. We watched that, and I
Oh
got the
dear.
group together to watch it, and I gave that a zero.
Yeah, I can see that. Wow. That
Yes,
was terrible.
that is going to release sometime next week. Originally, I was going to release it Tuesday, fell behind. I was like, I'm not going to release it this close to Friday the 13th because Friday the 13th has its own special, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So this one's
Absolutely.
that one's going to release next week, so it just has a little breathing room. So technically already recorded, already in the can, but it's going to release next week just to have a little breathing room. Yeah, 5 bad movies this month. Bad horror movies.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. At least bad horror movies sometimes are fun.
Yes. Yeah. Bad horror movies are so much better than bad other movies.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, The Silence was a bad A Quiet Place is what I call it.
Yeah.
Um the main problem I had with it is they do sign language, but they also whisper their words.
Oh, that's not annoying at all.
Exactly. I was fully prepared. I'm like, I've seen A Quiet Place. I'm okay with reading the bottom line. That's fine. Because that that's fine. That's all I want to do. And they kept whispering what they're doing at the same time. I'm like, dude, come on. It also was unintentionally hysterical. Stanley Tucci had one of the best plans. His family's like getting attacked by these bird bat things that are the main villains. He turns on a wood chipper and they all follow the noise and fly straight into it. And it's a
Okay.
great idea. Like it works in this world, but it's just hysterical when it happens.
They're just drawn to the dulcet tones of the wood chipper.
Yes, exactly. And they just get spit out. It's hysterical. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's the silence too. But yeah, so
All
three
right.
out of five are done and recorded. Two more to go.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. So I'll send you a message when I'm doing those other ones because I've figured out my schedule for the entire month. But yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, that'll do it for Jason Takes Manhattan. Any more thoughts about it that you want to conclude with?
Just like I said, I always, whenever we talk, I
Mhm.
always age myself, um, saying these things, but I do remember seeing this in the theaters in 1989,
Okay.
and it was a different experience seeing it
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
than back then, because all those ridiculous things about New York City that you see in it now weren't ridiculous back then.
Yeah.
At
Right.
least didn't seem, well, the perception of what New York City was
Mhm.
back then was way different than it is now.
My only question though, were there a million couches on every street and every dead end alley?
You know, I don't. Honestly, I don't remember. Here,
Okay.
what I liken it to
Yeah.
is the New York City scenes from Night Court,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
Night Court it was the same kind of era,
Yeah.
and I mean there weren't a whole lot of like outer scenes in Night Court,
Yeah.
but it was just that New York City back then, it was just trash. You know,
Okay.
there was just garbage everywhere, and
Still
you
good
know,
ones.
random just nonsense
Yeah.
everywhere. And it wasn't, I don't remember it being
Okay.
anything like terrible, but
Yeah.
it was just New York City. It was dirty.
Yeah.
Like David Letterman said back in the day when it rained, New York City used to make its own soup, and not in a good
Oh.
way.
Oh no, that sounds miserable. Oh. Yeah, the only thing I was thinking was the couches. There was a million couches. Other than that, I actually like toxic waste. Yeah, okay, there was a lot of toxic waste, but um, like the graffiti and stuff didn't bother me because I actually thought like in the '80s there'd be graffiti.
Oh,
That was
absolutely.
yeah, that was the thing. That was I mean that still is a thing in certain places, but now it's a street art. Um,
Right, right.
but yeah, yeah. Um, I had one more thought and I can't remember where it went. It was about the couches pretty much, but
Well, I
was
mean, homeless people like to be comfortable too.
yeah. Yeah, we can't
Random
give you a
needs.
place to live. Here's a couch.
Here's
Shoot
have a
up heroin
couch.
on this.
Exactly. Exactly.
All
But the
right. Well,
amount, you know what?
yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Going in that area, the amount of shredded paper in these movies that depict
Okay.
here
Yeah.
is ridiculous. How, I mean, so whoever's in charge of the garbage for the movies, it's like, let's just take an entire truckload of shredded paper and just throw it everywhere, because
Yeah.
that's garbage.
Yeah. That won't catch on fire when the toxic waste cuts on fire.
Maybe you'd clean it up a little, burn all the paper.
Burn all the paper.
But yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Ending on a bad note. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Now I'm gonna go watch Jason Goes to Hell.
There you go. Yeah, I actually thought about hitting Jason 5. Everybody's telling me how bad it was. And I'm like, I haven't watched that one forever. Like literally anything besides the original and Freddy versus Jason I watched last year. But all of the rest of them I've kind of not watched in a while, so I kind of forget.
Yeah.
Um, this one feels a little more like I need to do it. Last year, I usually have a theme for Octobers when I'm watching scary movies. Last year was big names, and so
Okay.
it was no, I can't remember exactly what it was, but for whatever reason, Freddy versus Jason fit into it. And so I rewatched Freddy versus Jason and still as cheesy and dumb as ever and makes it fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my favorite, probably, I don't know, favorite. I mean, I don't know. They all are
Mhm.
they all have their merits, I suppose. I think my
Yeah.
favorite might be Friday the 13th 2, um, only because I know it was filmed in New Preston, Connecticut. Um, and when I found that out back in the late 80s, I went, I went exploring in New Preston, trying to find where the lake was, where
for
the
the
casino
locations.
bar was,
Yeah.
all the locations, because the casino bar was an actual thing. But by the time
Okay.
I went looking for it, it wasn't there anymore. Um, but yeah, they spend a lot of time in that bar in number two.
Yeah, they do.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
I do remember the bar. I don't remember a lot of number two, but I do remember the bar.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
And of course, this is a good time to bring up that a lot of people don't realize that Jason didn't wear a hockey mask until halfway through part three.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Definitely needs to be reminded of that because
yeah.
yeah. Somebody was trying to get me to watch the remake as well, and I just can't. I can't do it. I just thought of that now that you say that because there's a part where he finds the hockey mask.
Yeah. Part three, or I'm sorry, the remake, it wasn't terrible, but Jason's a lot faster.
Yeah, and I think
Kind of like he
that's
kind of
definitely
like
part of it.
took a soup from the new zombies that
Yeah.
run.
Yep.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yep. Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead Zombies.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The World War Z zombies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, good call. All right, well, that will do it for Game for a Movie podcast, where we ask for, are you game for a movie? I've been your host, Mike. I've been joined by.
Jim.
We'll see you next time on Game for a Movie podcast. The end?
Thank you, Mike.
Question mark. Thank you. I appreciate it, Jim.
Thanks, man.